Welcome all to the session on Question Bank. The Question Bank, to begin with, it's a feature which is given only to the teacher so that she can reuse all the questions which have been used earlier in a test. The main purpose of the Question Bank, as I mentioned earlier, is to keep reusing the questions across all the instances. So the Question Bank feature can be mainly distributed and understood and under two broad categories. One is we add questions to the question bank and create a big list of question bank which can be used for different for extracting questions to different kinds of exams and creating tests. The second is reusing or extracting the questions from the question bank. So to begin with, we are going to see what are the different ways we can keep adding more questions to the question bank, one at a time or many questions at a time. So to begin with, adding questions, I will be showing you the way to add questions to a question bank directly from the question bank screen. So we log in as a teacher and we click on the question tab in order to see the question bank screen. As we can see in front of us, we have a list of questions from different exams. In order to add a new question to this list, we simply have to click on the new question tab, choose the desired exam, subject and topic, and go ahead and enter the details. We even choose the level of complexity of the question and move on to entering all the other details. As you can see, I'm entering the question and the answer option. Enter some random text and choose the right answer. I'm clicking on the save button here. As you can see in front of you, if you scroll to the top of the list, the recently added question is displayed over here and the question was added for the banking exam. So this is one way of adding the question directly to the question bank. Now the important thing to remember about this is this question is added only to the question bank. It is not available in any other test as far as this teacher account is concerned. It is a way to add question only to the question bank. Now moving on, we are going to see how can we add more questions when the teacher is creating a manual test. So when we want to create a manual test, we click on the create new test button. Here we choose the test name and we choose the grade, the subject, and after this screen basically has the same kind of process. We follow the same process that we follow while creating a manual test. We add the necessary changes that needs to be done on the summary page. Then we are clicking on the save button to save the changes. As you can see, we can go to the edit mode and we can see the new question tab where the data entry person adds new question to the manual test. Now, we have given this toggle called add this question to question bank. When the user clicks or switches on this toggle, what happens is the question that will be added to this test is also simultaneously added to the question bank. So what happens when this feature is given? The main thing to remember while adding the question to the manual test as well as to the question bank is the question becomes uneditable. So I would be showing you what we mean when we say uneditable. So we are going to enter a question here, choose the options, and go ahead and look over here. So the question is added to the question bank as well as to this banking from question bank 1 test. Okay, but if we see over here, the question will not be editable. You will not be able to make any kind of changes in this question because it is also added to the question bank. Now this is what we mean when we say add question to the question bank toggle makes the question uneditable. So this is basically the same screen that you see when the test is published. The questions become uneditable. So moving on, we are going to go to the next point where we are able to add more questions to the question bank while uploading a test. So as you know, for uploading the test, whether, say for example, we are going to look at this test which is being uploaded, banking from question bank. No, I would like to take your attention to this test which says banking SBI POPT, which has 35 questions which I recently uploaded. As you can see, the steps to do this is click on the upload button and browse and choose any zip file of your choice of any exam. And while doing so, when we upload the test, we need to make sure that the toggle is switched on. If the toggle is switched on, this is what happens. If there are, for example, I will be taking this test as an example. This test, banking test, has 35 questions which will be added not only to this test but also to the question bank. So this saves a lot of time for the data entry person. He doesn't have to add the each and every question individually to the bank or through a manual test. He can definitely do the upload, and the same upload can add the questions in both the places at the same time. And again, one more important thing to note over here is when the questions are added through mass upload, we can see that in the questions tab, we see the list of all the 35 questions, but they are uneditable. So moving on, the next category is we will be seeing how to reuse or import the questions which are added to the question bank, which is very, very important. And the main purpose of adding more questions to the question bank is the teacher should be able to reuse it. So over here, the first thing we need to do is I'm going to show you how to extract the questions directly from the question bank and create a test which is directly from the questions in the question bank. So say for example, the teacher wants to create a banking test with 10 questions pulled out from the question bank. So first, we use the filter to filter all the questions which are related to banking. And once the list is displayed, we go ahead and we click on this button that says add to test. So once the test starts adding the questions, we keep on adding the number of questions, and then we see a message that is displayed over here that the question was successfully added to our temporary test. Now, to save the changes to the temporary test and make it permanent, we need to click on the Save New Test button. When this is done, as you can see in front of you, a summary screen is shown, which is a temporary test which is saved. In order to take this test and make it permanent, we need to choose a test name, and you can see over here, we only see a save and delete option. Once we click on the save button, then the list of questions in the test are available for us to edit. Now, the other way to add more questions to this is by clicking on the import questions, and all the questions which are in the banking exam category will be displayed in the import questions box. The import question box is not going to display any other question from any other exam. Like for example, if we are creating a banking test, the import questions will display the questions from banking exam and not from IIT or NEET. So this is a list which is specific to the exam we are creating. So this is one way of importing the question, and once this temporary test is created, you can go ahead and save the changes. As you can see over here, this is the recent test that we published based on the questions pulled out from the question bank. Once the questions are imported, the changes can be saved and the test can be published. It is the same process that we follow to publish a test in a free mode or a private mode. The only change that we see is to import the questions, by which more questions can be added or the existing questions can be deleted. So the one more thing which needs to be covered under question bank is on how to edit the questions which are a part of the question bank. So the only way to edit the question in the question bank is to actually click on the question bank screen and to look at the question. In order, we have given you the filter option in which makes us easier to find a question. A question can be found based on the grade, the subject or the topic, or even by the the user can even search a specific question. If he knows what the question is, he would be able to search a question. So now I'm going to try and search a question called Who Teaches Economics? As you can see, we have the record on the left panel here. We have the results on the left panel here. So what we can do is, if we need to make some edits, if the teacher made some mistake here and she chose a wrong answer option, then she can clear that, she can edit that, and she can save the changes. Then the only thing which needs to be remembered is whatever changes are made in the question bank will be reflected in the test also. That is why the confirmation message is shown to us that this question is also a part of another test. Modifying this question will also modify the question in the other test. Do we still want to continue? So if we click on yes, the changes will be made. And if we click on no, it will be cancelled. If the question is not a part of other test, then no confirmation message will be displayed. In this case, both the questions were initially used in the same test. So because of which the confirmation message is displayed. So this is pretty much it as far as editing, adding, and extracting questions from the question pool is concerned. So this pretty much brings us to the end of the session. I would like to redirect you to this slide, which gives us a summary of all the things which are covered in this session. We started off talking about the question bank feature, which is available to the teacher so that she could reuse all the questions which are used previously in a test. Adding under this broad category under this question bank feature, we have two main categories of adding and extracting questions from the question bank. There are three different ways of adding questions to the question bank. One is adding questions directly to the question bank without making it a part of the test. One, adding questions to the question bank when the teacher is manually creating a test. The other one is when mass upload happens to the question bank as well as questions are added to a test. Moving on, we spoke about importing questions from the question bank. We create a test, and during a test, if the test is uploaded and it has 35 questions, but if we still feel we need more questions from the question bank, we can definitely click on the import questions and we would be able to choose from the list of the questions which are displayed in the import questions dialog box. Moving on, we also spoke about creating a temporary test from directly the question bank screen and adding it, making the changes permanent and publishing the test. Last but not the least, we saw that editing the questions added to the question bank is only possible when we go to the question bank screen. When we try to save the edits or the changes, the confirmation message will be shown in case the question is already a part of another test. If we click on yes, the changes will be shown, the changes will be seen in the question bank as well as in the test. So that's pretty much it as far as the question bank feature is concerned. Thank you for attending the session.